What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to the channel. I am Tyler Brook. If you've been following along so far, we've been doing almost exclusively Packers rookie previews. Not today. We're going to start mixing it up a little bit on a weekly basis, starting with an interview today with Dusty Evely of Cheesehead TV to go over what the future of the Packers offense is going to look like in 2023. Obviously, a lot of big changes with Aaron Rodgers, Lazard, Cobb, Tunyon, Lewis, so many guys gone at this point. It's the Jordan Love era. How is Matt LaFluer going to scheme up Jordan Love for success? We're going to dive into that. If you enjoy this interview, let me know in the comments. We may start doing more interviews like this going forward, but really excited to show you guys how we broke down what to expect from the Packers offense next season and beyond under Matt LaFluer. Let's go ahead and dive right into that interview with Dusty. All right, joined here, debut guest on the channel. I still don't have a name for the channel. I'm kind of just going by my own identity, but debut guest, Dusty Evely. Thanks so much for coming on, man. You've probably seen his work at Cheesehead TV, Packer Report, Pack a Day podcast. The reason I brought him on, I don't know if anyone does better work all 22 wise, schematically talking about the Packers offense. And with Aaron Rodgers gone, all these draft picks, it's going to look significantly different. So figured, Dusty, bring you on, talk a little bit about it. Thanks so much for coming on, man. I appreciate it.
No, I appreciate you, dude. Yeah, thanks for reaching out. This is weird down off-season time. Always down for talking Packers. So yeah, appreciate the kind words, man. You guys, like I said, you guys have been killing it. You guys were voices of the draft, you and Justice. So I appreciate all you do. I'm excited to talk some ball, dude.
So we don't have to talk retool or rebuild. Instead, we can actually talk film and schematics, which is...
I'm out. That's all I came on for, dude.
Well, why don't we go ahead and dive right into it? You sent me a few clips, and I'm very curious what we're going to talk about here. But first off, just general broad question before we deep dive into it. How much is going to be different between an Aaron Rodgers-led offense and a Jordan Love one?
So I've been asked this question, and my answer has been I don't think very much. Mm-hmm. I think 90% of it ports over. I say that, and the more I start thinking about it, it's like, I don't know about 90%. I think 80%, because there's always going to be some retooling, year to year anyway, just as things change, as everything progresses, offense progressive, defense progresses, there's always going to be little tweaks. I mean, the wide zone stuff isn't going anywhere, which means all the natural stuff off of there, all the boot stuff, and like that stuff's not going anywhere either. I mean, I would say the two big areas, and the more I dug into the first one of these, the more I was like, I don't know about this, is RPOs, specifically the type they run, and then also attacking the middle of the field. Cool. And so the RPO stuff, I've been very much wanting them to do more vertical pushing stuff, that post read, glance, slant RPO stuff. Rodgers hates that stuff.
Yeah.
Hey, like I think he's run, like I've tracked it back. He ran one week 3 in 2019, the first year under LaFleur. That was perfect. And then Von Miller blew it up. And then he didn't want to run him anymore. So you can count on one or two hands the amount of times they've run him in the LaFleur era.
Now, let me ask that, because I think that's a misconception with a lot of, some Packers fans, is that they feel like he runs RPOs, but really those are like pre-snap decisions, right? That he was running
almost exclusively. Yeah. Even it's funny because even some of the post-snap stuff that they ran this past year, he's reading it pre-snap. He threw backside slant against the Dolphins. And he threw at least one other one this year as well. That's supposed to be a post-snap read, that he pre-snap reads it. There's no snap read there. So, yeah, I mean, there's an RPO component. It was basically tag a bubble on the backside of this wide zone, and that's the RPO game.
Yeah. Right? I feels like at least some of the games early on, it felt like defenses knew that he would try and do this pre-snap. So it'd almost be like they baited him into pre-snap looks to make him make what you thought was the right decision, then ended up being the wrong decision. Am I wrong there? Yeah, no,
they started having because a lot of what they do is they place those 2 blockers out, and then you motion that third guy underneath. And if you've got 3-on-2 over on that side for the numbers game, you throw the bubble. They'd have a guy that had that overhang like between the tight end and then inside receiver, so it wouldn't count into their math. So they'd still count that as like, we've got the numbers advantage. And as soon as the ball snapped, he's flying through the alley and hitting us. They would bait him, and they would do that. And I mean, the other thing was they don't have Devontae Adams to throw to. Like if you had Devontae Adams, you can make a guy miss. he can make you right a lot. They didn't
Yeah.
have that this past year, so they were kind of baiting them, and they didn't have kind of the guys they wanted to throw to. So
Gotcha.
So that's I think that's part of it. And again, like middle of the next one that is middle of the field, which I know is like a big sticking point with Packers fans. I actually dug into that to see, like, well, he throws the middle of the field. Like, how bad can it be? I think since the LaFluer era, he was like 63rd out of 65 qualified quarterbacks as far as targeting the middle of the field. Like, yeah, no, he doesn't do it, man.
Wow.
He doesn't do it. So I mean, I think there'll be some of that. I thought like uptick of motion and play action, but honestly, like, they were pretty good on that this past year. I looked up these numbers before we started. Like motion, they were 10th in the league. Play action, they were 16th in the league. So you get an uptick of that. Well, and then even targeting the middle of the field against play action, which is a big one.
Yeah.
Packers were 6th last year in that. So they don't target the middle of the field except for probably one very specific concept of play action, and all of that's middle of the field and nothing else. But I mean, I do think like just straight drop back shotgun stuff, though, they've got some concepts to attack the middle of the field a little more. But I think from passing perspective, I think those are the two big ones that I expect to see.
Well, why don't we go ahead and dive into some of this film you brought over? Thank you for that. A lot of this channel is all 22 film, so I was interested. The first thing I saw in here was not a Packers play, but it looks like we got Patriots Titans. So why don't you break down what's going on here?
Yeah, this is a concept that I really, really like that the Niners really liked as well. I ended up pulling this one because I really like this. I like this clip a lot. It's depending on what you want to call it, H post. I know Shanahan calls it arches, and what they're going to do, they're going to motion a guy across to the left side. That's Gronkowski isolated the left right now. They motion a guy across, and it's almost like a drive concept. So it's kind of like not necessarily high low, but you got the delayed thing where you've got a clear, and then you've got another guy kind of coming over the top, and it's designed. It's the theme, Tyler, designed specifically to attack the middle of the field.
Perfect.
Is what you're trying to do is you're clearing with the drag, and you kind of push out, and then you arc back in over top of the guy that just ran it. And so this is, so if you want to run it, I mean, we'll see it. And this is a concept, like I said, the Niners like this a lot. Shanahan likes this a lot. So you got that motion, and watch Gronk kind of push, and you can see him. Oh, I forgot I can do that, can I? There we go. Okay. So you can see the push there. And then he kind of pushes out against that boundary defender, and that's wide open. So again, it's one designed specifically to attack middle field. And it's one, and you can also, you've seen teams run this. I think the Niners will do this. They'll run that with a angle right out of the backfield. So you got that clear drag, and then you get that kind of push out, that angle towards the boundary, and then cut back in over the top.
Awesome.
just to attack the middle of the field. So I can't remember if I sent the other clip as well, but just to kind of to illustrate the point, Titans did do this with LaFluer his 1 year as a play caller out there. So this is something LaFluer likes. I don't think we've seen it in the LaFluer era, and so again, this is my theme of these clips is essentially attack the middle of the field.
Well, it feels like they have the personnel for something like this too, right? Yeah. Especially with all these rookies. I mean, they're going to have 2 tight ends. I know, Musgrave has that speed in that Gronkowski role, or Kraft after the catch. Who do you expect to be running a lot of these digs? Would it be Reed? Would it be Watson? Would it be Dobbs? Or you think they would just kind of mix that up?
I think Watson makes a lot of sense on the other side, because that's like that alert. Like if you've got the one-on-one, like I think for this particular concept, I think Watson is probably the other side. I think a guy like, depending on how he comes along, it's a guy like Jayden Reed, someone like that, because you want that, like, you don't need speed, but you need to be able to cut. And so you get that, you angle out, and then you just plant that foot and drive back to the inside. Yeah. I think a guy like you said, like, I don't know, man. Listen, if you want to get real fancy, put DeGuara out there. Get DeGuara out there. I feel like he could run it and go real heavy with that. But yeah, I think you got like Kraft in that Gronkowski role, and then you put someone like Jayden Reed on the outside that can just 1 foot stick that foot in the ground and get back to the middle. I think Reed would make a lot of sense. Yeah,
if anyone watching knows Matt Harmon with his reception perception, which is just awesome stuff. I believe he had 100% success rate on digs, Reed, in college, something like that. Absurd.
Did he?
Yeah, I don't know how much he ran of it, but I know he was quite successful when he did it. That's interesting to think about. I'm pretty excited about middle of the field stuff. It feels like a refreshing new. I mean, it's like a third of the field, man. It'll be exciting to see. It'll open up the passing game. Let's go ahead and go to the next one. I've got a few here. We have curl, dig, power glance, and then the Kentucky file. What are you looking for next?
Let's do curl dig because that's one with Love on the field. So I feel like that one It's a pretty easy way to do it. This is one I swear to you, the Packers did not run this concept a single time in the LaFleur era. They ran it 3 times with Love against the Eagles, and then Rodgers ended up running it like 3 times the rest of the season after that.
Wow.
And so it is something they've got in their playbook. It's something they're looking for, and it's a real simple read. We're looking right side. You've got that stack look. The inside guy, I think that's Cobb, is just going to run a hitch, and you're looking to kind of pin down that hook defender, and you just run a dig over the top of it. And so you're basically, you're almost wrapping them around. So you run the hitch, wrap it around, balls out, hit the middle of the field. So if you want to, go ahead. Sorry.
So what you're saying is you're trying to basically get that defensive back's feet kind of like frozen on the curl. And then are you just throwing it right behind him basically, or as soon as he crosses that?
Right off the hip, basically. I mean, you can see, I mean, even just here, if you look at the, look at the defensive alignment pre-snap, if you hold that hook defender who's kind of drifting over to the stack right now, you got the linebacker to the other side. You've got what looks like that 2 high quarters look. Middle of the field is wide open. Cool. Like you can tell pre-snap, unless someone sneaks down, no one's there. So you've got him holding that hook.
Yep.
And you can watch him. I mean, the ball's out before he's even out of his break. You're wrapping around that hip, and that sucker's just out. So this is one, again, Love certainly, this certainly seemed one that Love is comfortable with. That when they said, hey, if you have to come in for 10 snaps, what do you want to run? And he said, I want to run that 3 times. So there's comfort with it, and it's effective. And again, middle of the field concept, man.
This is actually something I talked about with my offensive coordinator today at the high school. He was asking, it's like, what do you think Love's going to do? And I was like, well, we've seen very limited action of him, but one of the things I noticed in this particular game, he threw with such better timing. So are you saying you think that that's more of just he was running concepts he's familiar with? Do you think that's just a general thing?
I think it's a little bit of both, because even in this, and there's a clip. I think this is the first time they're in it in this game. I can't remember exactly what this clip is. But they would typically how they did it in this game. I think they've got a kind of out. Yeah, they got that like almost a divide concept on the other side. If you see those two, they got trips, and you can see them kind of dividing out there. They paired that with that was the 3 times this game. So they would run it, but then even then within the comfort, because this is a 3-step drop. So you can see him, he takes that 3rd step, and then he just bang hits it out. Later on, when the Eagles were like, we're not letting you run this anymore, that timing was still there where he's ready to throw that 3-step. The Eagles drove on it, and he transitioned over to 5-step and hit that divide on the left side. So, I mean, I think there certainly is they ran what he was comfortable with. There's a handful of concepts. He did not have to run the whole playbook. So, I mean, from my perspective, that's the big question on Love is how does he do? I mean, screw a whole season. How does he do within a whole game in terms of like when they start making these adjustments to him? But I think the timing of how the answers he had when the initial read was not there on a concept like this, and even something a little later in the game as well, that was the most impressive thing to me for sure.
Cool. This is a good angle of this too. Look at 43 for the Eagles. I mean, you can literally see he even drifts to the left, but that ball is literally out before he's even there. That's a great throwing window.
Yeah.
Really easy design to get Watson open with that speed and plenty of space. That's awesome to see. So why don't we go ahead? We got a couple more to go through here, and then I actually have a couple more questions, but this is outstanding. You want to do the Kentucky clip or the RPO?
Oh man, let's do Kentucky clip because it kind of plays off of this. Plays middle of the field, so this makes sense. This is one from Florida, Kentucky earlier this year, and I love this concept so much. I mean, it's more or less the same as what we looked at the first clip. It's kind of that Arches delayed drive, whatever you want to call it, and they're running out of this 2 tight end set, and they run this with an ungodly amount of misdirection. I think they do jet left, play action right, and then they pull a guard. And so they're playing with the eyes all over the place.
Yeah.
And you've got the whatever YY wing, hip slot, whatever you want to call that 2 tight end look over there, which listen, I'm sure you're the exact same way I am. You see that draft, you're like, what can we do with 2 tight ends on the field now?
Oh, I was thinking 12 personnel like crazy, everything like that.
Gosh.
There's so many endless possibilities, especially in a Shanahan style offense. Like I'm excited.
Yeah, and I had this was I think week 2 of this past season. That this play was the college football season, and so I did a breakdown of this, and then as soon as because I did Musgrave first, as soon as they did Kraft, I was like, they need to run this. I mean, it's basically, like I said, it's basically just a drive concept with a drag and a dig over the top, a little delayed. That inside guy is going to run that drag. He kind of sneaks out because there is so much misdirection, and the outside guy just runs that dig. And he just sneaks right past the linebacker. It's almost like a little pop pass to that. So it's the inside tight end is the guy that ends up going to there. But it's 2 tight end set, an ungodly amount of eye candy. With again, you get that puller in there too, which is something with the run game the Packers tried to do early last season and didn't do. they had to scrap it because it did not go well for them. They found other answers, but you see that guard puller there. I mean, there's so much eye candy. You're messing with the linebacker's eyes, and then you pop that guy past him. And then even if that guy does not, that inside tight end does not pop in, you're still using him the same way we looked at with that first concept, where you're dragging out the middle and you're running the replacement dig behind it. So I mean, you've got answers there.
I can't imagine being a linebacker looking at something like this. You know, I coached that position last year, and we have very specific responsibilities when you see a puller, because you're just not expecting a pass as soon as you see that puller. That just makes this stuff a living nightmare. If you know, even for a guy that, you know, you praise a linebacker for having good eyes and reading his guard effectively, this is just unfair stuff to run, especially when you have such heavy personnel.
Yeah, no, it's a beautiful concept, and it also sucks real bad. It should be illegal if it wasn't so beautiful, really.
Let's take one more look at this angle here. So much motion going on. Linebackers so confused. I mean, theoretically, is there a window for that deep in too?
There is, if the linebacker follows. Like, it looks like there's not really if he stays home, but that's the thing. Like, one of those guys is open there.
Yeah.
Like, if that linebacker falls back, the drag's open. If he runs with the drag, so yeah, there's a window for that dig if the drag's not there.
I'm really glad you brought up this play, just because we talked about it. 12 personnel, 2 tight end sets, and I've been so curious. There's going to be so much potential for stuff outside of just the run game. Because I will say this: I think Kraft and Musgrave give great effort as blockers. I'm not totally sold on them as blockers, but their pass catching potential is just outstanding. So there's got to be.
That's why something like this came to mind, because if you have something like this that is like, I mean, tight ends are different, because tight ends, you want them to be good blockers and not going to be from year one. Wide receivers, that's always, are you trying hard? Because if you're trying hard, like, I don't care if you're good or not, you're trying. But this is almost the same thing. There's so much eye candy, there's so much misdirection. The threat of 2 tight ends blocking, even if you feign a block and are just slipping out, like, you can make that work as long as you're halfway passable when you're actually like trying to sell a block at some point. So they don't need to be good, they just need to be passable. And so I'm just crossing my fingers and hoping that happens.
Still wish Mercedes Lewis was coming back. I think he would have been the perfect mentor in that capacity. But what are you gonna do? DeGuara is not a bad blocker, so maybe he'll get on the field.
I do like DeGuara.
We're DeGuara truthers, aren't we? I don't think there's a lot of them on Packers.
Oh my gosh, Twitter, I love him so much. I mean, I really do think he could have a very, very big year this year. He's not that traditional tight end, but yeah, there's dozens of us, Tyler, and 2 of us are sitting right in this room, man.
Outstanding. All right, we got one more for you guys. This is the Power Glance RPO, which I'm excited to go through.
Yeah, so this is actually wrote about this. I got this going up on Cheesehead a little later today, I guess, if this goes out Wednesday. So this is that power. So you got the puller. They're going to pull center left guard. Center left tackle, kind of that sweep look to the left, and then you're kind of a pin pull, because you're pinning down with those another 2 tight end set. You got 2 tight ends on the left there. You're pinning those guys down. You're pulling them around, and so that's the main power look. And then you've got the backside glance route from, is that Sammy Watkins? I think it's week 2. I think it's
Watkins.
And so you're just reading that constraint guy, that backside linebacker, which Rodgers is not doing, but I mean, the run is the correct call here anyway, but you're reading that backside linebacker and see him drifting over. If you watch him, does he fall under the route? Okay, then he's not a part of the run fit. So I throw this or I run this. And then if he does as part of the run fit, it's wide open. This is, I mean, the power looks, again, were something they tried to do early in the season, did not work that well for the most part. So they scrapped it and did some kind of wide zone with tight end pullers. Pretty cool, honestly, given some of their limitations they had. They did some good stuff with the run game. But this is something I would like to see more of. And I went back and I was trying to pull clips of, I've got a bunch of old Jordan Love games from his two seasons at Utah State. Most of his RPOs were roughly what the Packers run. Okay. He did run some of this glance stuff. So there's one that looks almost exactly like this his senior year at Utah State that he throws a glance. So it is something he can do, but I want an example of this is, and again, this is handing off, but this is something they did try to do last year. Rodgers doesn't like the post snap stuff, but it is a world. It's something almost you could see LaFleur putting this stuff in here, not caring if they actually throw it or not, because he knows it's not a post snap read, but it's in his bag and it's something that Jordan Love is willing to do. So it's one of those. That RPO game, I mean, we touched on it early. I don't think the volume, they're not running the same volume of RPOs they did under Rodgers. I don't see a world where that happens. But that more vertical pushing, like varied RPO look is something I desperately need them to start doing.
Why do you think Rodgers was so just like not willing to do post snap reads? Do you think it's actually something he struggled with?
Could be. I mean, this is something I talked to Peter Bukowski with. I was like, the way his processing, his quick trigger, if he wanted to, he could be like one of the best post snap RPO
Yeah.
throwers in the game. Like I just think it's one of those, not that he was old when it came across, but it's one of those old dog new trick things. Again, it could be just something he's so set in his ways. The RPO, the pre snap stuff is so easy to read, and he's so easy. He can get that stuff out so quickly that, again, like that, it was Denver game 2019. Everything looked great. And then Von Miller like steps in the throwing lane as he's trying to throw it, and he has to dirt it, and it pissed him off. I think he said, "I'm not doing that again." So, I mean, I think part of it is the first time he tried one, I blew up in his face, and it was like, "What's the Simpson thing? Like, you tried and failed. So what's the lesson? Never try." So I think he just like adopted that as his own for the RPO stuff, because again, like the post step RPO, they worked more of it in this past year. And he only threw that stuff even based on pre-snap reads anyway. So I think he didn't like it because he liked to control as much as possible.
Yeah,
that's and you're looking at a guy there, and you're slowing down the run process, and you're saying I'm basing it based on this guy, and then I have to make like a split second throw. I just think there's too much control out of his hands for that, and it's came late enough in his career. I don't think he ever felt comfortable doing it, and he's like, well, I just don't have to do it then.
So I'm also glad you brought up this clip because it is a pin pull, and I feel like the Packers had a ton of success with this.
They did.
And I also noticed like a lot of gap scheme stuff because this is gap scheme. You see, that was a big trend in that going upwards in the NFL. Is that because of all of the cover 2 looks or 2 deep safety looks? And then I imagine you expect the Packers to run a lot of this again this year.
Yeah, I mean, I think the cover 2 stuff, and I mean, this might be going a little too deep down the rabbit hole, but I kind of wonder, the rise of so much play action. So many teams were relying on play action and wide zone. You started seeing teams, and the Colts did this with Eberflus, who's obviously now in Chicago, and the Niners started doing this partially because they've got an alien playing linebacker for them, where they would just, especially for the wide zone stuff, like anything where you don't have pullers, they would just tell linebackers, don't move until you have to. And so they plant them in the middle. So with so much more play action, defenses are now just like planting that. They don't, the clear trigger is that movement, but they're like, okay, if we don't have to do it, we're not going to move. And if they're late reacting, they're late reacting, but they don't really care. I think the pullers is a way to force a reaction in a way that is not, because you're not only is it a quick trigger, right? You got those eyes, and it's like, well, he's moving, that means I need to move. It's also, if I'm late to that spot, there's now a wall of humanity. That's not like, it's not a line of dancing bears down the line. There's a wall there specifically attacking that area. So I think part of it is just, if we want to keep doing play action, we got to diversify the run game a little bit. Like I said, they did try to do that. I think like pin pull was one of the few power things they kept throughout the year. They tried doing other stuff early, and it just, I mean, they had Royce Newman and they had Elton Jenkins out there. And like,
I forgot Royce started the season. I'm going to be honest. Oh my
gosh. I wish I was you, man. Really wish I was you. So it was ugly early when they tried doing some of this stuff. So they scrapped it. So I do certainly anticipate, I think, a return to that this season. It's one of those things I've been clamoring for this will be 3rd year now. And they tried it this past year. So I think that's going to be a point of emphasis this year. Awesome. It's going to be more kind of power stuff.
Cool. Well, I only got one more question for you, just because we've been doing so many Packers rookie previews and trying to figure out everything. But like, what are your expectations for the offense this year? We went over like what you expect schematically wise. What do you think about like efficiency and effectiveness?
I think it's going to be bumpy at times. I mean, with so much, and that was, I mean, last year was partially that way as well. I mean, we went into that season going, there's so many rookies, Devontae's gone, like it's going to be rocky, and then eventually they're going to get their footing, and eventually they kind of did, although they were never really fully consistent throughout the year. I think it's going to be more of the same this year. I mean, Watson I really like, but he got injured quite a bit. And Dobbs, I like Dobbs. I think he has a very nice role, but he also has issues that I think he needs to kind of clean up if he wants to be kind of a full-time contributor. And then past that is like, Torrey was good for the 5% of snaps he got on the field. So just like wide receiver wise, there's so much talent and there's so much inexperience. And tight end room, same way. I mean, I think, like I said, I really like DeGuara. I love the pony package stuff they did early last year. I love the idea of it, right? With
just like, don't give me the T-fly motion inside zones over and over.
Well, that even when they try to diversify it, was like, okay, well, AJ Dillon can't be a lead blocker, so they just took that package and they just put DeGuara in there. Like, okay, DeGuara, you're a second running back, and that stuff worked way better. So I think he's much better in that role. Tyler Davis is fine. The idea of Tucker Kraft and Musgrave is really good, but also like rookie tight end. So I think as much as I love the 2 tight end stuff that I hope they'll do, I think it's going to be bumpy. I think hopefully the run game will be better, and I think some of the quick passing game. I think Love. I'm excited to see what Love does throughout the entire season. But even then, I mean, accuracy is I think always going to be a concern of mine with his as far as consistency. Even if he did show improved kind of mechanics and everything this past year, so I think it's going to be bumpy. But my hope is, I mean, listen, if they win like 6 games, I don't think they're going to win 6 games. I think they're going to win more than that. If they win 6 games, they win 6 games. All I want is, can you go into 2024 and say, I mean, listen, Nucleus is solid. Like we got better as the season went on. Back half of the season, it looked much better, and there's a lot of room for improvement there. So I don't think it's gonna be pretty. I think it's gonna be a little herky jerky, but I think offensively, like schematic, I think it could be some really fun stuff. And he's just looking for, I don't know, promise, hope from those guys that they just get better as they go on. Just get better as the season goes on. Like the worst thing to happen is a couple of those guys get injured, and then it's like, well, we still don't really know.
I mean, I think that's the biggest thing I'm looking forward to as well. Like I couldn't care less about wins or losses in 2023. I just want to see experimentation more than anything. I want to see guys grow and develop. I want to see if Jordan Love can get comfortable as the season goes on. And I know we didn't talk about it this episode, but I am curious to see about the defense too. Maybe Joe Barry can actually try some stuff. But Dusty,
listen to you.
Dusty, I really appreciate having you on, man. Honored to have you as the first guest, just because, again, I love talking ball in this kind of way, and I couldn't think of a better first guest to have. So go ahead and plug everything you got. Tell us what we can look forward to coming up, and then
who knows, man. I've got so Cheesehead TV. I'm working through. I've got a call sheet series where I'm trying to. I got really bored because I'm trying to I always try to get through the previous season and say what worked, what didn't, conceptually speaking. And it's always the same every year where I'm like, I've got this stuff now, how to present it. So I'm trying to do it in a call sheet series. So I've got on Cheesehead TV, I'm on second and short. So I'm kind of going through, I look through what's their success rate in this, how many plays per game do they have, a whole bunch of caveats up front in terms of like, well, you know, it's you play different, and this isn't going to be the same for every opponent, blah, 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 blah. But clips and play diagrams and stuff like that. It's been a really fun way to kind of review the season. And then I've got Packer Report. I wrote a big article. I'm trying to do like a fact or fiction series. So the first one was, did Aaron Rodgers avoid throwing in the middle of the field? And the answer is yes, he absolutely did. And the next one is, does Rodgers, which he's gone now, which it sucks because it started a while ago. Does Rodgers bomb the ball down the field at on 3rd and short at a high rate? And I had the sucker written, and then the website, right as I was getting ready to hit publish, ate it. And then I got so mad that I've not, that was like a month ago, and I've not touched it. And so I'm trying to get that back up. I'm trying to get myself back going there. So yeah, a couple series here and there, Cheesehead weekly, and then Packer Report. I'm trying to get to weekly if I can just, not make myself sad when I think about it, but that's my stuff.
Awesome. Well, Dusty, appreciate it again. For everyone watching, we'll be back again on Friday with a Packers rookie preview on Tucker Kraft. Very interested in that one. Like, subscribe, all the generic YouTube stuff you got to say, right? But appreciate everyone watching. We'll see you next time.